nothing into the seventh inning or 1-0. We saw this the last time with Snell and Snail, a Sale.
Yep.
Try saying that fast.
Yep.
With Snell and Sale with Atlanta. This sounds like the same kind of matchup today. All right, the Mets okay? They've got Atlanta for 3 in the middle of the week. As long as they don't get swept, they should be okay, I think.
Yep. Well, as long as they do all right these next two, I think they're in pretty good shape. They can't right now. They can't enter that series with the Braves any worse than tied for the last wild card spot. They're 2 ahead. They're playing the Phillies today and tomorrow. They got whipped yesterday, but I think they just put that behind them. Phillies are a good team. I think the Mets match up well with the Braves. I actually think this is the year that they go into Atlanta at the end of the season and find ways to win a couple of games. And I think when we're talking next week, we're going to be talking about them in a playoff preview scenario.
And what spot are they going to be in? 4, 5, or 6?
So I think they're going to wind up being the 6, and I think the 6 is a lot better for them than the 5. I don't think you want to be the 5 because if you're the 5, it means that you get Cease, Musgrove, Darvish, 3-game series, and I don't think any team wants to face those 3 guys.
Unless Arizona goes nuts and wins this week over the Giants and then knocks San Diego around next weekend. This is pretty good baseball, isn't it?
It is. It's exciting. The extra wild cards make things a little bit more interesting, even if some potentially undeserving teams get in. It's always fun at this time of year.
Pretty good. Giants having a good road trip, too. All right, we'll talk to you next weekend. Thanks, Mark.
You got it. See ya.
All right, be well. That is Mark Simon, Sports Info Solutions. Bruce Jenkins next, right here on the Sports Leader. It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are known as the granny units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
You call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us. We are on the stream right now, so if you watch us on KNBR or Twitch or YouTube, wherever it is, you can see me talking on the stream, so that is back up. All right, Bruce Jenkins, good morning. How are you?
Good, Marty. What's going on?
Well, what a week for Bay Area baseball. First, I was thinking about it. Giants get eliminated. All right, that was inevitable. But you got the whole Farhan story circulating around. And then you look across the bay, one of the most dramatic baseball stories ever. The franchise is leaving Oakland like the Brooklyn Dodgers went to L.A. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's really strange times. I mean, I'm going to BART my way over to Oakland to take in that last game.
Oh, good.
I put in so many years there covering the A's and playoff games and, the 89 series, and just there's so much there. I'm not feeling a lot of the nostalgia is waning a little bit because it's such a travesty and they're going to Sacramento, and I don't see any really purpose for the Coliseum beyond, soccer or whatever they're going to plan for it there. But way too much of my baseball career, my sports writing career, was spent over there, and I just want to be part of that last day.
Yeah, Ken Korak will be with us tomorrow morning, and I said this is not the St. Louis Browns or the Seattle Pilots or the Boston Braves leaving Boston, and they couldn't draw and went to Milwaukee. This is a franchise it's like the Brooklyn Dodgers or the Giants. It's that close to the community that had success that is going away simply for business reasons.
Yeah, it's so similar to the Raiders, who are absolutely a fabulous team almost every year and left. The Warriors, needless to say, were pretty successful in Oakland. It's just the same old nonsense, really. And, for me, when I started working at the Chronicle, it was in the mid-'70s, and I was going over to watch those A's teams as a fan. And I'm kind of a National League guy and had seen the Dodgers and all those great teams coming in. And all of a sudden I'm looking at this might be the best team I've ever seen, just from a team standpoint, those A's teams in the mid-'70s. So it goes back an awful long way for me.
Well, we'll talk more about it over the weekend. Some of your highlights tomorrow, we could talk about that. Bruce, the Giants are eliminated this week in very dramatic fashion. We knew it was coming. But the home run off of Walker finally gave up a home run to Santander on Thursday, and that's it for the Giants. But I look back on the season, and heck, Elliot Ramos, I love the kid. He just hustles. He got 3 big hits last night. There's just something about him. You never know what's going to happen in a baseball season. He's a good story.
Oh yeah, he has been a great story. I mean, for a long time, they didn't think he was going to be a big league hitter. I didn't think so. I figured, what do they see in this guy? And all of a sudden, it all came together for him. The one time he didn't hustle, he was reminded of it. I don't think he'll ever do that again, where he didn't run out of a ball that he should have. But great power. He was on his way to the cycle, very quickly, yesterday, and they're gonna need that. If they could get another power hitter in the off season, so where Ramos isn't carrying that load, but he's a supplementary guy, maybe he could pump 30 homers, in a good season if everything goes right for him. So that's really been fun. To me, this whole road trip has been like an exhibition of the Giants' young pitching. They're going into Baltimore and KC, these two tremendous teams. First you get Snell, then Birdsong. They lost Webb's game, then Mason Black last night, and today's Landon Roop. I mean, that's kind of an interesting sidelight because these young guys are really good.
Well, they can pitch. There's no question. And look, they've played over 80 1- or 2-run games.
Oh,
and and Mark Simon said it that Kansas City and Giants very similar offensively, except for Kansas City, they hit with runners in scoring position. The Giants don't. that's something that changes from year to year. So I think you get a couple of, as you just said, you give me 2 hitters in the middle of that order and everything else, and this pitching staff, and I'm going to compete. And that's how I feel going into the off season. They're not that far away.
Yeah, and it's interesting with everything we're talking about. Meanwhile, you've got Harrison and Hicks both on the IL. I mean, that sounds like a death knell, but they've got so much depth, and you'd like to think they get rested up and come back strong. And needless to say, their innings will be monitored maybe even more closely than this year. But there's just a lot of options there. I sure hope Snell comes back. My goodness, he's ridiculously good. And I like it. The Giants left town and the Orioles went crazy last night. They hit 5 homers.
I know. And against Detroit, team, and they did the opener, and then they brought the next guy in, Montero, and he got knocked around. This race, let's talk about it a little bit. I mean, the Orioles look like they're in. They just need a couple more wins, and they're going to be in that 4 spot. But, Kansas City, without their big hitter, Pasquantino, and we love Salvador Perez, Bruce, but if he hits a ground ball, you can throw him out from left field.
Yeah.
And they got Witt with 3 hits, and other than that, they don't look like they hit enough for me. Now, they got good pitching. The bullpen's shaky, but, they don't have to get into this thing. Minnesota may pass them.
Well, very much so. I think Minnesota has a lot more hitting. If you get Buxton and Correa and Royce Lewis in there, and some of these other guys who are hitting the ball good, I mean they've got some spunk. They got a big win last night in Boston in extra innings. I think Correa is just such a big part of that. I don't know if he offsets Bobby Witt's having a really special year, but yeah, that Kansas City lineup is not imposing. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have trouble against Arup today with that big breaking pitch and the great stuff that he has. Minnesota's got more hitting. I think Detroit even, you don't know who they are, but they've got more hitting.
Yeah. Well, they got a bullpen. And that's the thing. They made it a 6-inning game, and the young kids are coming through for them. And they're only a game behind Minnesota. I looked at the box score last night from that game. Boston left 17 on base. They were 1 for 19 with runners in scoring position. How about that?
Yeah, they're fading out of it.
They're done.
They're done. They've had some good stuff from Duran and Rafaela and some good moments at Fenway's, but they never quite got to where they were right in it, and next thing you know, they're not. So yeah, that's too bad. But they got a lot of young guys to be looking at that might develop into good players.
With 8 games to go, this is baseball loves this. The division races are pretty well settled, except for maybe San Diego could do some damage to the Dodgers. Who knows? But the division races are settled. But this wild card thing, baseball loves this because Seattle. Bruce, they're 79 and 75. They're 3 games back in the loss column of Kansas City. They throw an ace out there every single day, and they could run the table. They could win their next day. Now they got Houston in the middle, and Houston probably is going to clinch it one of these days. But Seattle, Julio Rodriguez all of a sudden hit 2 home runs, and they could make this thing wild.
Yeah, he's hit 4 homers in 7 games, and he did perfect timing too. He's such a big part of all that. But I mean, they've had to overcome some real embarrassment. I mean, I think it was Wednesday night when they lost to the Yankees. Julio was on third, and Randy Arozarena struck out, and his bat comes sailing right toward his head. And a kind of a natural reaction to just get out of the way and sit there. But meanwhile, the ball's in play. He's tagged out. It's a huge out. And this is a night after, who was it, Victor Robles tried to steal home with no logic whatsoever, and was thrown out. And they're doing all these crazy things, but I tell you, like you say, probably definitely the best rotation in the American League, I think, because every guy out there is having a big year. Yeah, certainly one of them. And I love Julio, and I like watching Arozarena and Cal Raleigh and these guys, and Mitch Haniger is part of that too, for heaven's sake.
Yeah,
not a big part, but he's in there.
Evan Weeback was on with us earlier and wrote a whole story about Luciano today and the way they've handled him and all that. Should he play or not? He just texted me and says, after all that, Luciano's being sent out today.
No,
So,
for heaven's sake.
how about the way they've handled this kid, Bruce?
Disgraceful.
Really?
An outright disgrace. Inexcusable. It's like they don't know what they're doing. I don't know if it's Farhan or Melvin, but all the things they promised him, they haven't come through. And meanwhile, they're playing Donovan Walton. What is he, 50? He's at 50 at this time when they're supposed to be looking at young players and they have no chance to do anything. I mean, I can see putting, Canna and Conforto in there because, they do owe it to the other teams to play the Orioles in Kansas City tough, and all the way through, play a contender and don't put a whole AAA lineup out there. But Luciano, this was his time to play. They even said it. He's going to be our second baseman. We'll just play out the string and see what he does. Well, no. What's it going to be in San Jose next?
Right. Interesting. Boy, sending him out. He's comparable to Ramos in a way. Ramos is a little older now, but for years he got a few at-bats, bango, back to the minor leagues, and finally he made it this year. My prediction is on Luciano is he gets traded, and he's put in a trade with one of these pitchers or something else, and they try to get a young hitter back. I think that's the answer for this.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's done here. I'm sure in his mind he is. But, the thing is that he hasn't looked like what he was supposed to be. He didn't look like he was just supposed to be at short. He's never looked terribly confident in the field, and you take that up to the plate sometimes. He hasn't hitting, and one or two bad games, and they bounce him either out of the lineup or off the roster, off of the minors. So, way too quick to judge. They can't judge him if they don't give him enough time to settle in, and he's never been able to do that. So I wouldn't expect. Well, we probably won't see him again now ever. He might be somewhere else in spring.
Yeah, and he deserves it. Because the bat will play. I've always said this. The bat is going to play somewhere, but you gotta deal with the kid and not destroy his confidence like that. That's weird. Sending him out. You can have him on the bench for the next 8 games. What's the big deal? I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I don't. Did you see San Diego last night? A couple of things with San Diego. One, Arise finally struck out. The kid Brown, was it Hunter Brown from Houston, is really good. He struck him out, and I
think it was Aaron Getty who got him.
Oh, was it Aaron Getty? Okay.
Yeah, really tough low and in slider that I don't think anybody but Stan Musial could have hit. But 141 plate appearances without a striking out. I mean, you compare that to the Giants, it's like talk about night and day. But he's gonna win that batting title. I don't think there's no way Otani, as great as he is, can catch him. But last night Tatis walks it off. Tatis is just an amazing player. He made a phenomenal catch. The other night he's had a couple walk-offs already, and Musgrove is pitching well. And I think Darvish goes tomorrow, and they just got an awful lot going on there. Yeah,
they play the Dodgers starting Tuesday. Yeah, and then they end up next weekend with Arizona. So, baseball got it together. It worked this year with all the final week matchups. Well, last night for me, the San Diego game, and I keep my records, and it was late at night. I said, all right, let me get the San Diego score. Yeah, they're going to win this game. It's 2-0. There's 2 out in the 9th inning. Suarez is in there. It's the White Sox. Yeah. And Suarez walks a guy. I said, all right, he walked a guy. He's got to get the next guy, right? Next guy hits a home run.
Yeah.
and this is the Tiger game all over again. He hits a home run that's 2-2, and luckily, Tatis gets the double, and in the 10th inning they win the game. Come on, how about that?
Yeah. I mean, they need Suarez to be consistent. He's mostly has been, but I mean, they've got Adams and Estrada and Scott. Their bullpen is really deep since the deadline. So I don't think they're freaking out too much about what's going on out there. But you don't want to blow that lead to the White Sox, for heaven's sakes.
They're good. They're good. They really are good. That looks like a team that could do. They could be that kind of wild card team that could do some damage.
Yeah.
So let's go to Otani, and you Bruce, I have to say, from the day he went into the major leagues, you've been taping every at bat of the guy. And here it is. What a moment.
Oh, man, I'm so glad I'm not taping Angel games to watch him.
Remember
Good
that?
grief.
Yeah.
What a drag. But and when you think about it, the Angels are such a desultory franchise, and they can't seem to do anything right. They'd never get any pitching except when they had him. But through all of that, the guy was just racking up unbelievable numbers, unbelievable story. Then he gets to L.A., and I don't even know who the guy is now. I mean, I really think that was the greatest individual performance in the history of the game. I mean, there's other games that have been great, but you put on top of it, he had the 50-50 thing in play, which is everybody's watching him. It's a night the Dodgers can clinch, and they do. He goes 6 for 6 with 10 RBIs and 3 homers and 2 steals. And he would have had a cycle. They threw him out a great throw, just barely beat him to third, or he gets a cycle out of the damn thing. I mean, and then he homers again last night. He looked like he was jammed a little bit, and he lifted it up, and it goes a million miles out to left center. Just this guy, you want to go out and hope that he does something. It's a pretty good chance he's going to do something really wild, even if it's like beating out a grounder because he's so fast. The guy's just unbelievably great, and a real reason you can never dismiss the Dodgers.
Well, last night 3 for 4. I think he 9 for 10. I think.
Yeah.
And he hit. Now he's 51, 52, and 52. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He got his 52nd home run last. Unbelievable. Yeah, it really. I'd say what makes Reggie drove in 10 in a game. Brandon Crawford got 7 hits in one game. Heck, Pablo hit 3. Reggie hit 3 in a World Series. Stolen bases. Ricky Henderson certainly could steal bases, but it's like Willie Mays. They say, was Willie Mays the greatest? Well, other people could do certain things that Willie could, but Willie did them all.
Yeah,
and that's this guy.
Well, I think Mays is the greatest ball player because if you break down the tools, everything that goes into it, I think Mays might have an edge on him. But this guy's the greatest player. So I mean, it's two different arguments. You got to put him up on it's a 2-man Mount Rushmore up there because I mean, on top of it all, Otani's been a great pitcher. He's going to pitch again next year. He certainly has power over Mays. But just in terms of the tools, I mean, Mays will crush him in base running. He's a better hitter for average. He's got plenty of power defensively. I don't care if Otani played 15 years in the field. He'd never be Mays in the field. So I mean, these are things that you take into account as far as who's the best ball player. I don't think that changes. But Otani has put himself in an entirely different category. He's the greatest baseball player. Because he does more things than anyone can even imagine.
And look, he hasn't pitched.
Yeah, they've talked about him pitching a little bit. I mean, you imagine that he comes in and gets the last out of the World Series and the Dodgers win it all. I mean, talk about an epic season. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think Dave Roberts doesn't want to do that. I'm surprised he's even. I mean, he can throw casually off the mound, but for him to be throwing reasonably hard and thinking maybe he wants to pitch, I'm not for that. I mean, he's had a couple of surgeries. I always think once a guy says he's ready, I say wait another month. And in his case, just let it go, give him the off season. When he come back, just throwing bullets next spring. But, he's Otani. You don't know. Maybe he does pitch in relief.
Well, if Andrew Friedman said no, I'll guarantee you, if it gets down to that kind of situation, well, he'd have to be warming up, and they'd have to have him in shape. But that would be pretty dramatic. Oh boy, wow, good stuff. Well, there's so much to talk about this weekend. One of the historical notes, which is a lot of fun. We'll do the birthday first. Jeff Leonard, born in 1965. Bruce, he's almost 70. Hackman, almost 70. How about that?
It's hard to imagine Leonard not being, old penitentiary phase, hitting four homers in that '87 series against the Cardinals, and just he in terms of presence in a clubhouse, he was really not unique. There've been a lot of guys like that, but a player of that magnitude who you really wanted to take the field with the guy, but a lot of the guys he just grated on him. Will Clark really didn't like the guy. But those teams took the field and they played like hell together. And Leonard really peaked with the Giants. That '87 series with the one flap down, and that was epic stuff. He should have carried them. It was like Bonds should have carried the Giants to the '02 World Series against the Angels. I mean, come on, that was his World Series to own, and they didn't get it. In this case, the Giants went back to St. Louis with a 3-2 lead and scored no runs
Oh, God.
in 2 games. I mean, so I hate to bring that up. Now you got Jose Oquendo and Maldonado and everything else, but Leonard was a special guy. I remember covering him and going into after locker rooms after they had lost, and he hadn't done well, but you kind of wanted to talk to him. That was kind of a challenge. I mean, I definitely felt a little bit intimidated by the guy because he could undress you with a look. But special times. I mean, talk about a different times for the Giants. When you think about Will Clark and Kevin Mitchell and Jeff Leonard and Krukow and all these characters, amazing competitors. There's so few of those guys they have right now, but they're looking at the future, and the thing about baseball is you never know where it's going to go.
No, and now he's the sweetest guy in the world.
Yeah.
He's the
absolutely.
base. Come on, he's a dancer. He's going to be on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, he's Jeff Leonard. Boy, nice guy. Very quickly, and by the way, his birthday is tomorrow. I jumped that gun on that. But the other one for today, very quickly, 30-30, Howard Johnson and Strawberry, 1987, the first teammates to do it. Doesn't sound like a big deal today.
No, not at all. It really wasn't a big deal that season. I mean, Joe Carter did it, Eric Davis did it, both that season in '87. They both went 30-30. But for 2 guys on the same team to do it, that was pretty wild. And Strawberry hit 39, and Howard Johnson 36. They both stole more than 30 bases. And the Mets, they were coming off that title year. They were still really a force. They didn't win it all, but it's funny. It's like, really, your name is Howard Johnson? He goes, hey, when I was a kid, my family took me to Howard Johnson's every Sunday after church, and I never had to pay for lunch.
People have to remember it was a chain. Howard Johnson ice cream and pancakes and all that. and his name was Hojo. That's what they called him.
And Roger Craig and Krukow come into this when he hit his 30th homer in that season. It was against Krukow, and it went about 1 million miles. And Roger Craig goes, I've never seen him hit a ball that far. I had him in Detroit. He's got to be corking his bat. So Dutch Rennert confiscates the bat, and they X-rayed it, but he was exonerated. But at the end of his career, he himself said, I did know a few good carpenters. So he had a little cork in there, but heck of a player, Howard Johnson.
I love it.
Yeah.
Come on. And I liked
Strawberry,
I liked Howard Johnson's ice cream, too. All right.
Absolutely. Are there any Howard Johnsons left? Are they
Probably
all gone?
Not.
Or?
Come on. They went with the dog by Funland Park or wherever it was out there. Oh, boy. All right. What a season. Well, we got more tomorrow, and then we got next weekend. So, been great. I love talking baseball with you. Thanks, Bruce.
Okay, Marty. Talk to you tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Very good. Coming up next, what a thrill. We have him on every year. Seren Petro is coming up next. He's from Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City. He does the show, The Program, weekdays 2 to 6 p.m. He covers the Chiefs as well. He knows Kansas City baseball. He's like the Greg Papa kind of Kansas City. All right, so Seren Petro next right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter. Fans for great baseball gear, check out Baseballism. The store is located at 3rd and King opposite the ballpark. Whether it's jackets, shirts, hats, you name it, Baseballism is the most unique store I've seen. It is the best. 3rd and King, right opposite the ballpark.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talking Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, glad to have you back with us. If you're watching on the stream, we are back on the live stream, so please check it out. Joining us is Seren Petro, as I compliment him by saying he's the Greg Papa of Kansas City, which is a compliment. Sports Radio 810 in Kansas City, weekdays 2 to 6. It's called The Program. He covers the Chiefs, our favorite team, as well. Seren, how are you?
Doing well, Marty. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you on. Let's get the Chiefs out of the way first, because the Niners are going to start crying when they hear your voice here. The Chiefs struggling this year? Did they get a couple of gifts or what?
You know, I think we're going to find out with their game Sunday night against the Falcons because, you know, we've asked the same question after the first two games, great win or lucky to survive? And, you know, I think you want to say it's a great win because there are big expectations for the Ravens and Bengals, but the Bengals laid an egg against the New England Patriots, and the Ravens, after losing to the Chiefs in the opener, turned around and lost at home to the Raiders, who aren't supposed to be very good. So, you know, how good were those teams? Are all the top echelon teams of the AFC just kind of taking a step back? I'm not sure. The Chiefs have some things they're dealing with. They had to pull their left tackle, the rookie, in the middle of the game last week. Hollywood Brown went on the IR. They haven't gotten anything from him. Isaiah Pacheco hit the IR this week. So they've got some things they're dealing with, a little more adversity than they're used to having this early in the season. So I think we find out a lot. The Falcons are a team they should beat, but they're a dangerous team. And if the Chiefs have flaws, the Falcons are capable of exposing them.
We love it. Have you met Taylor Swift yet?
I have not. You know, our social media department at the station is always out at the game and always, you know, sending out photos and taking videos. And they do a great job of being in the right spot to see her on her way in. I have not met her, but the people who have been around her all have positive things to say. She's always very kind and very cordial and, you know, waves at our cameras and everything. So, yeah, every week it's like a tradition now. Sports Radio 810 WHB's entrance of Taylor Swift is something we send out every time we possibly can.
I love it. What a story. All right. The Royals, come on, 106 losses last year. They wanted a stadium. That got voted down, a manager we never heard of, and they've turned it around. I love the general manager. I spent some time with him last year when the Royals were here in Arizona. They spent some money over the winter. It all worked out, and here we are in September, and they're still there.
Yeah, and I think if they, you know, right now maybe they're 5-game losing streak, and we'll see if they end up, you know, continuing that and fall out of the playoffs. But before that, I think they were barreling towards being executive of the year and manager of the year. I mean, I think both J.J. Piccolo, the GM, and Matt Quatrero, the manager, I think were prime candidates for that. There are other good candidates as well. But you just mentioned it. If you go from 56 wins one year to the playoffs the next, it's tough to not give that award to those individuals. I think, you know, start with J.J. Piccolo, the great moves that he made. One, getting, you know, filling the pitching voids that they had. He you know, was able to go out and you know, find some guys in the $15-16 million range. Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, you know, guys that are solid pitchers. You know, Seth Lugo only had 1 year as a starter. He was really the first domino. They had to give him multiple years, 2 years plus a player option. And once they got him, and that kind of showed that they were serious, they were able to then sell the fact that they were working on an extension for Bobby Wood Jr. Michael Wacha fell in line after that. They got some bullpen help. You know, he did a great job in the offseason. He did a great job at the trade deadline, and then even on the waiver claims when they lost Vinny Pasquantino, which has been a big, big loss, and that's one of the reasons why they've had the struggles they've had of late is losing a 100 RBI bat in the middle of their lineup. They're just not that deep to where they can take that kind of loss, but getting a Tommy Pham, a Grossman, a Gurriel, you know, they just kept firing. And give some credit to John Sherman, the owner. You mentioned losing the vote for the stadium plan that they wanted. You know, it could have been real easy to get sour, to get angry and say, okay, well, fine, I'll just mail it in and save money. Instead, you know, he loaded up and kept firing. You know, took on salary at the deadline. Like I said, took on salary with the waiver claims right at the very end. And so I think, you know, the personnel part of the equation has been great from J.J. Picollo. They do still have some holes. The bullpen's not very deep at all, but they've been fantastic as far as adding people. And Matt Quatraro is the closest thing to a wizard I've ever seen. Listen, I was a big believer and would pound the Moneyball theme of it's the general manager that matters and anybody can kind of manage it until I watched Matt Quatraro. He has made a huge difference. And I know he was the guy managing last year, but he has done an unbelievable job with a roster that is much improved for sure, but does have weaknesses, right? They're not deep. They have some problems against left-handed starting pitching. Their bullpen is an issue at times because there's only a couple of guys up at the top that you can really depend on. Really, the one thing he's had is 4+ when Alec Marsh is going well, 5 starting pitchers that he can really count on, but he's been fantastic at pressing the buttons.
Yeah, Mark Simon from Sports Info Solutions was on with us earlier today. He said the Royals should have like 150 starts from their 5 starters. That's amazing.
Yeah, we looked it up a couple of years ago, and I think on average, a playoff team usually needs about 8 starting pitchers to get to the finish line. And they've had several guys. They've had an opener. That doesn't really count, right? They've had a couple of guys. Daniel Lynch has had to start. They've been a spot here and there. They went out and got Michael Lorenzen, again, one of those deadline deals when Alec Marsh was having some struggles, sent Alec Marsh down. Lorenzen gets hurt. Well, they got Alec Marsh fixed in the minor leagues and brought him back up, and he's been great. His strikeout numbers have been even better since he came back up. So, they've done a fantastic job with that starting pitching. And are they a little bit lucky? Sure. When Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo have 3s in front of their age, you can't count on those guys to throw 34 starts at that age. And really, neither one of them had. I mean, you were on a career high for innings for Michael Wacha, for Seth Lugo, for Brady Singer, for Cole Reagans. All of them are hitting their career high in at least big league innings this year. And so, and then for Wacha, maybe I should check that. It's at least the highest he's had in quite some time. I'd have to go back and look and see if this is actually his career high. But, they have done a fantastic job of not just being able to lean on that starting pitching, but also keeping them healthy. And, I'll give credit to the training staff. I'll give credit to Brian Sweeney, the pitching coach. But let's be clear. I mean, when you have a pitching staff that's that healthy, that long, there's obviously a little bit of luck involved as well.
Wow, boy, Seren Petro with us. Boy, what a report on the Kansas City Royals. And I'll say it again, 106 losses last year, and here we are at September 21st, and they're getting close to clinching a playoff berth. Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez. And Bruce Jacobs and I have talked about Perez for the last 3 or 4 years, the Hall of Famer. Boy, he's a big guy. He hits a ground ball, and you can throw him out from left field. But a clutch player in this Bobby Witt Jr., what a star. What a star. Man, look, you've seen George Brett and all the great ones. How does this guy fit in?
He is one of the great ones. I mean, he's putting up numbers. He's kind of made it boring. Like when you put the fact that he's got, forget about the 330 batting average that he brings to the equation, but more than 30 stolen bases, more than 30 home runs, more than 40 doubles, and more than 10 triples. He's the only guy to do that ever. And so, like, once we kept eliminating people along the way, and it's like, that's not even fun anymore because he's the only guy. You put it into the baseball reference search, and you find out that's it. He's the only guy that's done it. So he has been amazing. Really, last year he took to shortstop. He'd had a tough go of it his first year defensively. And J.J. Picollo got the general manager's job, and he said, well, listen, we're not playing him at second. We're not playing him at third. We're going to put him at short all year no matter what. And we're going to find out, is he our shortstop? Or, there was talk about moving him to center field. And J.J. gave him that confidence, and it paid dividends big time. He really has been great defensively in addition to all the great offensive numbers. And he's the catalyst. He's the guy that gets it done. Then you mentioned Salvador Perez, who what's amazing is, look, he had a 48 and I think 122 season where he led the league in home runs and RBIs a few years ago. This is going to be a 3,000 season for him. It's going to be a second one in that category. We've seen those offensive numbers, though. He's always been a very good offensive player. What's amazing about Matt Quatraro and his coaching staff, and I give a lot of credit to Paul Hoover, the bench coach, who does a lot with the catchers, he made him so much better defensively. Salvi had won 6 Gold Gloves, and then framing became a big thing. The analytics really looked closer at catching, and Salvi was one of the worst when it came to framing. And so those Gold Gloves dried up, and people started saying, well, his on base isn't that good, and he doesn't frame well, so we can't vote him to the Hall of Fame. Paul Hoover came in, immediately moved him closer to the plate, and I think the Royals had pushed him back because he'd had a couple of concussions, and they were trying to protect him. He's like, look, he's got to get closer to the dish. Did it like his first day on the job at spring training, and his framing numbers went through the roof. They've done a phenomenal job. Now he's a well above average defensive catcher on the framing metrics. He's always been very good. Pitchers love throwing to him. His pop times, all those things have always been very good. But now the really precise stuff, he does very well. The Royals have really adopted that Rays approach of, more coaches for the coaches, like whatever it takes to make everyone on your roster better. And I think it's a great testament to Salvador Perez. I mean, here's a World Series MVP, a guy who is a strong candidate for the Hall of Fame. Whether he makes it or not, we'll see. He's got work to do to get there. But he was willing to sit and listen and learn from somebody who just came in, and I think that's a great testament to how much Salvador Perez is committed to winning, how much he loves the game, and how great it is to have him on the team. There were a lot of people that wanted him traded, said, hey, let's flip him, get as much as you can. This team's 3-4 years away. They stayed with Salvador Perez, and they wouldn't be in contention right now if they didn't have his big bat and all his leadership in this clubhouse.
Yeah, we love him. I'm looking at this. The Central was trashed going into the season. Would they be any good? I'm looking. Look, Cleveland has won the division. Kansas City, Minnesota, Detroit, they're all over 500. And, yes, they're probably 35-1 against the White Sox. But, heck, the Central has been something.
Yeah, it has. And I do think there is, like you mentioned, the White Sox. The Royals are 12-1 against the White Sox. The Guardians are the one team that kind of struggles with them, so they've clearly earned the division championship by beating other teams, better teams. But, the Royals are 12-1, plus 11 against just the White Sox. That is a big part of their success. And, we saw a Royals team back in 2003 have an improbable year where they were above 500 in between 100-loss seasons. And that was the year the Tigers lost 119. So I do think, there is let's see what they do if they get to the postseason, if they can finish this season off. They've definitely got a boost from being able to have the White Sox 13 games. But, they are a much, much improved team. Their pitching is better. Really, their bullpen is starting to come around here of late. They've at least got 3, 4, 5 pieces now that they can count on. That's really been their Achilles heel. The lineup doesn't look that good at the bottom, but, at times they've been the third best offense in the American League. I think they've fallen back to like 5th or 6th now with the injury to Vinny Pasquantino, which has really hurt them. But, it's been amazing, and that's why I come back to Matt Quatraro. His lineup construction, the days off he gives guys, where he puts people in, he has really been very impressive this year and in all the moves that he has made as the manager.
All right, good stuff. Soren, great to have you on. I love it. Each year we love to get you on and then talk some Royals and Chiefs sports. So you're the man. I appreciate it. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
Oh, Marty, you're the best, man. Thanks for having me. It's always great to be on in a great city like San Francisco.
All right, Soren Petro. All right, thanks, Soren. More coming up, KNBR 680, 104.5. Brody Brazil, next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
Fans, I love to talk about my good friends at Georgie Brothers Furniture. They've served the Bay Area for over 90 years. Their talented staff work as a team to help their customers find beautiful pieces of furniture to invest in. The 50,000 square foot showroom, you've heard of it, is full of some of the finest manufacturers of furniture, carpets, and window coverings. Now, one of the most popular furniture lines that I own is Stressless. I love it. They make high-quality, comfortable furniture, including sectionals, sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the one I've got, and that is the chair and ottoman. I love it. Starting August 30th and running all the way until October 21st, there's a new Stressless promotion. It's called Fall Savings. During this sale, you'll receive an instant 10% savings on all Stressless furniture. This can easily add up to hundreds of dollars. It's an unbelievable savings on one of the most well-made furniture products today. That's Georgie Brothers Furniture. The showroom is in South San Francisco with free parking. Since 1933, the best source for home furnishings. Visit them at GeorgieBrothers.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember to tell them Marty sent you.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us as we get ready for baseball today. Marco Luciano sent out. Matt Chapman is back, and the saga of Marco Luciano continues. That is going to be a story all winter long, what to do with him. One other thing Raf and I were talking about, and it pertains to next year, April 3rd is the date for Mardi Gras at Original Joe's in San Francisco, April the 3rd, and I know a lot of people are listening. If you want to, and look, this thing sells out in about 24 hours, and we want to take over a little more of the restaurant if John Dugan will let us. So if you're interested in Mardi Gras, you don't have to send the money now, but send me an email, martylurie@yahoo.com, if you're interested in Mardi Gras, and we'll get you on the list now because I want to make sure we do that properly over the winter. So that is what I wanted to let everyone know. All right. Brody Brazil joins us, and we love having him on. He is an icon of sports broadcasting in the Bay Area for NBC Sports Bay Area, doing the A's pre and post, the Sharks as well. Brody Brazil, nice to have you with us. How are you?
Marty, did you say April 3rd for Mardi Gras?
April 3rd, that is correct.
That's my birthday. So...
Oh, come on, man. Be there. It'll, Original Joe's, if you're around, please. It's great. It sells out, literally in 24 hours, a full meal at Original Joe's. And if it's your birthday, we'll make it special.
See, I was trying to get the comp in there. I was trying to get the comp invite.
You're comped. No, you're done. You're comped.
Thanks for having me on. And I it's funny, like when people read the credits of who I am, what I've done, or what, my job, it's kind of weird. It's like it's all in the past tense right now. I'm still kind of getting used to all that.
I know. Well, let's talk about that because the news came out a couple of weeks ago that you're not going to be with NBC Sports Bay Area, whatever you want to call it these days. What happened? What went down there?
I'm the contract employee, and they just decided to go in some different directions, and that was the end of my contract, and quite simply, just not coming back. And like I said in kind of my announcement, I wish I had more answers for people. I also needed to kind of dispel that anything crazy happened, because sure. in our modern age, people will come to expect the worst. Like, what did you do? What did you say? How did it happen? There was none of that. I tried to be a pro's pro through the A's relocation saga and document history as best I could. And stay on track and on target. And so I don't, to this day, I still don't have the answers. I was informed of all this back in July. And then, it just wasn't, first off, I wasn't ready to make the announcement. There were also some particulars to handle behind the scenes. And so at the beginning of September, it was time to let everybody know. And so that was not an easy thing to do. To kind of craft up a little statement and read it and to share it with people. But I do have to say, I'm not in this business for this reason, but the response and some of the kind things that have been said, wow. To some degree, it will all cool down. We know how this process goes, but I do really appreciate the support, because the combination of, a team that I've covered for a long time leaving, and a job that I've done for a long time going away, it's kind of like a kick in the shorts, both in the front and the back, if I could be so graphic.
Yeah, no, you're an icon, and you're so comfortable on the air, and people love you, and it's a real loss. But there is a future for you. Anything cooking right now?
Yeah, I'm trying to stay in sports broadcasting, and I'm pretty open and honest. I really don't want to leave the area. I'm from here. Spent all 43 years of my life in the Bay Area. Grew up in the East Bay, San Jose State for college, lived in the city for a good 7 years, now back out in the 925. So I love this area, this region, too much family, too many friends, too much value to not give this a real crack. So I've got some things cooking. I appreciate everybody who's been so supportive and say that they hope I will stay. That's definitely the priority number one. So I don't have any answers on that yet either. That would have been a nice transition, but still working on some things, and obviously hopeful something shakes out.
Now, let me ask you about YouTube, because people say I should have a YouTube channel, which I'm going to do. And
All right, there we go.
Yes, I am. I'm doing it. Next week or two, I'll get it going. And I love doing it, and it's something I've done all my life. I just like talking to people, and so that sort of stuff. But you have YouTube going now, don't you?
I do. It's something that I kind of got into 2018 into 19, and I had a little space at my house, kind of an extra little opportunity here with the prior owners. They had some daughters, and they had some bunk beds in there, so I took it all out. I turned it into a home studio, kind of obviously before the pandemic and before anybody was doing any of that. It slowly evolved, and I'll tell you what, basically 2021 and 22 and leading into this year, I've really put forth an effort to try and create something new every day for somebody to come either enjoy or learn or listen to or keep up to date on something. The growth has been great. I mean, I think the channel this year is on target for like between 12 and 15 million views. And,
wow.
For some, that's if you go on YouTube, Marty, and this is why I'm saying everybody needs to think about it, because that is a tiny number compared to what some people are doing. But in our realm, hey, I'll take it, and it's fun. I really get a kick and a reward, and there's so many people who comment on it. And for those who want to check it out, Marty, check this out.
Sure,
the way to
please.
get there, you could search me on YouTube, sure. But if you type in MattChapmanFanClub.com,
Okay.
it'll take you to my YouTube. And in fairness, I bought that domain when he was getting his platinum glove with the Oakland A's after 2018. But as soon as he came back to the Giants this year, I reactivated the domain name. So had to get it in for my guy, Chad.
Wow, fabulous. Boy, what a great story. What a great story, Brody Brazil. You're a real part of broadcast journalism in the Bay Area. You have a great style. People love you, and good things are going to happen for you. And I know it. It's very clear to me.
I appreciate that.
Now,
Thank you.
come on. Let's talk A's a little bit. Look, without the A's, I'm not here today, as I started my show back in '96.
Yep.
And my pregame for the network began in '98. And that's, 29 years later, I'm still doing this stuff. And there go the A's to Sacramento. And I've seen so many amazing things at the Coliseum. The crowds, the fans, and look, we're talking about a franchise that goes back to '68 here, and just amazing dynasties. What's your feeling about the fact that goodbye Oakland, goodbye A's?
Yeah, it's hard. It's still hard to comprehend, right? And I mean, even since Las Vegas emerged in the picture officially in April of 2023, and then at the beginning of this year, Sacramento was announced. You knew all of this was coming. We knew that this upcoming week, was on the schedule for the final home game and eventually the final road game up in Seattle. But now that we're here on the doorstep of this, I mean, it is more tangible, and I think the emotions go from confused to frustrated to sentimental to sad to angry. It kind of just goes in this weird circle. But to be here and be witnessing, like, hey, I'm thinking like last night, there's no more Friday night home games. For the Oakland A's. And it's a trip to kind of cross off every team that's coming to town. You're like, well, that was the final Battle of the Bay series when the Giants, had played their last game there on the road. And, and I think like the Chris Bassett's who pitching for the Blue Jays this year, when he stopped in, he took a chunk of dirt, put it in his back pocket. My buddy Mark Canha, the Giants last game, he did the same thing. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm going to do the same thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to go out early to the Coliseum, make my final stop, take a little Tupperware out there. It's already been approved, by the way. Claywood is a very kind soul.
Right.
Take whatever you want, he said. But no, I mean, I just think nobody can really wrap their heads or hearts around this yet. And I do think that, come October, November, maybe we'll have finally realized it. I mean, certainly if there is an opening day next year at Sutter Health Park, that's going to bring a whole different wave of emotion. So as much as I like to say some people can just be done with it, this process is going to continue to drag and weigh on some people like they don't even know yet. Well,
great success of this franchise on the field. And as I say, we go back to the 70s with the 3 World Series titles, the early 80s with Billy Martin, the late 80s with Tony and that crowd. And you've gotten to work with Dave Stewart and Shooty, of course, and My God. And then, you get into the 2000s, and I'm there with Art Howe and Maka to see all that, and Bob Guerin a little bit, and, of course, with Bo Mel and the things that he got done. There's a lot. There's a lot of history there. Some of your favorite. Give me a couple of your favorite moments at the Coliseum.
Well, I can take it back to being a kid and just learning baseball when the orange seats were in the Coliseum. And, it was the candlestick and Coliseum days. Like, neither side of the bay really had a great ballpark, but they were grinders. And it was before, Camden Yards came around. So late 80s, early 90s, obviously, for me, I was very impressionable. And how cool it was to have, on one side of the bay, Jose and Mark and Stu and Eck and, and Ricky and all that stuff. And on the other side of the bay, Will and Robbie and Kevin Mitchell, and it was such a thing to have the Bay Area baseball scene be like it was. So that was an early memory. I would say as I got older, covering those 2006, 7 A's teams with like Nick Swisher, and when Frank Thomas came back and they made the playoffs in 06, and Kotze had the inside the park homer. That was, some of my earlier work experiences. And then I would say 2012. And, ironically, a year that baseball fate goes to the other side of the bay and the Giants, get their second in 3 years. But for the A's, they were supposed to be a train wreck of a team, and they sweep the final homestand. They win game 162. Josh Hamilton drops the ball in center field. The Bernie lean's going on. Bob Melvin is in his first full year as A's manager, and I really feel like for all the years, and I got to know obviously Bob very well by the end of it, kind of seeing him and saying, this is our guy. This is the leader of everything that's going on here. So 2012, I think covering that one was pretty magical. And then quite honestly, even 18 and 19 with Chapman and Olsen and Bassett and Minaya and Marcus Semien and Sean Murphy. It kind of came and went in waves, and unfortunately for the A's, that a lot of the waves were self-inflicted. The waves didn't have to end like they did, but they kind of made the waves go away, so to speak.
Boy, I love having you on. This is good. Yeah, when I get this YouTube thing started the next couple of weeks, you're on. This is exactly what I want to do.
No, you're on my channel. I want you on my channel. No, I'm happy to collaborate with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah, Marty Lurie and Friends. I'm going to call it something like that. And
I like it.
Just talking ball, just like this. This is what I like to do. Well, I'm happy to have you on. I know good things are in the future. You have a style that works. It's comfortable, and you get along with everyone in the game. And I know you do it well. So only good things will happen. I know that.
I appreciate it. Would you be available to come speak at my next job interview? or do you do representation at Marty? I feel like I need you, buddy.
I'm a lawyer. Come on, you know that.
Oh, that's right.
49903. Come on, I still have my number.
I might need you for something else then, actually, too. No, just kidding. You are so kind, and I really appreciate it.
No, be well, and we'll catch up. Thanks, bro. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
All right, that is Brody Brazil. Boy, what a show today. All right, we got more tomorrow. Believe it or not, we come on at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. We've got a lot of things happening tomorrow morning. Glenn Kuiper will be back. Ken Korak will join us tomorrow. And Bruce Jenkins, Joe Sheehan is with us tomorrow. We've got a lot of things happening. So 7 a.m. for us tomorrow. So we've got that going on. But, boy, Walter, thanks for your patience today. Walter, of course, coming up with our Giants warm-up. But it's Brady Singer of University of Florida. He's one of my Florida guys. He's one of those big starting pitchers for the Royals. Let's see if they can hit it all. They don't hit very much. He gives up some home runs, 17 homers. But he's pitched 168 innings, so it's kind of par for the course. But on the other hand, I'm anxious to see Landon Roop today against this Royals team that needs a win. There's good baseball going on. This team needs a win, and the Giants 3-1 on this trip, and they could have won them all. And they're not quitting, which I like that. So that's our story today. Raph, great job. And if you're interested in Mardi Gras, it is April 3rd. Just send me an email, martylurie@yahoo.com, and I want to make sure we have you on your list and on the list, and then we'll continue doing that over the winter, too. All right. Walter Ikabalseta coming up with our Giants warm-up. Have a good morning, everybody. Talk to you tomorrow, 7 a.m. right here on the Sports Leader.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants Warm-Up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the Sports Leader.
Madison Bumgarner trying to wrap up this World Series for the Giants. He's ready. He throws. Swing and a pop-up. Side the ball down the line in foul ground. He's got plenty of room, and he's got it! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years. And Madison Bumgarner has firmly etched his name on the all-time World Series record books as one of the greatest World Series pitchers the game has ever seen.
We'll turn back the time moment there. 10 years ago in this very ballpark at Kauffman Stadium, where the Giants are playing Game 2 later today. Welcome, everybody. Giants fans, what's up? Welcome to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR, the Sports Leader. I'm your host, Walter Icabaceta, and on an earlier than previously scheduled start time in KC today to avoid any troublesome weather that may be coming through later in the evening in Kansas City. So first pitch is now at 2:10. So instead of the previously scheduled 4:10, so we will be chugging along. I'll have you here until then. But wow, what a flashback to 10 years ago with Madison Bumgarner coming out of that bullpen. We'll talk about that and get your thoughts. We are live on YouTube and Twitch, and also obviously on KNBR, the Sports Leader. So give me a call, shoot me a text at 415-808-KNBR. That's 415-808-5627. Want to get your thoughts on that just remembering back to 2014 and what your feelings were in that World Series, and if that kind of holds up as your favorite World Series. I know everyone gravitates to that first one because it was so long, prior to the Giants bringing one to San Francisco. So I understand the affection that you have for that first one that gave everyone so much joy, but 14 is kind of right there when you're comparing the World Series, because that one took on a life of itself, right? I mean, it's every World Series has its own identity, its own flair, its own flavor to it. And I would say 2014 was probably the only one, as far as the World Series goes, it was the only one that you didn't necessarily feel like your team was going to come out on top, because it did go the distance. It finally got to that Game 7. So we'll talk about that coming up. Definitely. We'll talk about last night's game. Mason Black, he looked phenomenal. He's someone that you can potentially look at as a future cog of the Giants starting rotation. We'll have to see how that all comes out. And then Elliot Ramos just continuing. That's my big takeaway from this game and just the games going down this final stretch, this final week of the season, is you start looking at these young guys and they continue to produce. Like Mason Black, he's going out there and he's competing and kind of showcasing what he can do for, if not for the Giants, but for other teams. But you look at what the future can potentially hold for guys like Mason Black, like Hayden Birdsong, who pitched phenomenal in Baltimore earlier this week, and like a guy that's going today, Landon Roop. He's someone that is starting he's going out there for his third start of the season, has looked pretty good in his first two. But Elliot Ramos, looking at the position player side, he goes out there, he almost hits for a cycle in Kansas City. So I mean, it's just a lot to look at in these final games, but I buried the lead there because the Giants, with their final loss, or their loss, I'm sorry, in their final game in Baltimore, were finally eliminated from playoff contention mathematically. I mean, we kind of all saw the writing on the wall, and it was just kind of like a tick down to finality, but the Giants are officially mathematically eliminated from contention. So what do you look for? What do you look to for these final games? And exactly what it was yesterday was Mason Black, was Elliot Ramos, and all these guys that are potentially future pieces to the Giants in 2025 and moving forward. So we do have a great show lined up for you for this next hour or so. Again, the official pregame show will be starting at 1:10, and the first pitch is at 2:10 later today. And coming up in this hour in about maybe about 8-10 minutes, we will be speaking with, since we're in Kauffman Stadium and we were talking about the 2014 World Series, who better than to talk to as a member of that World Series team who was on the field in Kauffman Stadium 10 years ago on October 29th, and that is outfielder, two-time World Series champion Hunter Pence. He will be joining the show in about 10 minutes, where we will be talking about the 2014 World Series and all those memories as they come flooding back as we look on the Giants playing today at Kauffman Stadium. And we will also look at the Giants team of the current, right? I mean, what Hunter's expectations are and who he's looking at specifically down this final stretch of the season. So a lot to come up. And tomorrow, because I'll be on the warm-up as well, we'll be talking with Zach Bayruti of the Sacramento River Cats as they are wrapping up their season in Sacramento. A lot of key players to be looking at there, and we'll discuss later as the show goes on. So let's go ahead and look to the World Series teams of the 2010s, 2012, and 2014s, where each team had its own identity, right? And when you look to all of the different World Series teams for the Giants, every single team had a different flair to it, right? I mean, when you look to 2010, they went in and they had to, it was Brooks Conrad, right, that got it all started in Atlanta early on in the playoff run. And then they had to go into Philadelphia and go against that monstrous starting rotation. So it was kind of the underdog mentality, right? That's what the Giants had in 2010. Then you flash forward to 2012, where you look to these teams and it was a lot of the same guys with a couple of different wrinkles in the 2012 roster for the World Series. And it was all the elimination games, right? I mean, there came a point to where the Giants were facing elimination, and you as a fan, you were locked in and you almost knew that they were going to come out on top. I believe the number was 11. I don't know if you can check that, Raph, but I think it was 11 playoff elimination games that they fought off to get to the Fall Classic. And then they get to the Fall Classic, and again, heavy underdogs against one of the best teams in baseball at that point. I mean, you had Miguel Cabrera, you had Prince Fielder, you had all of the great starters with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and Anibal Sanchez. I mean, you look back at that team, Giants were huge underdogs in that World Series, and they just go out there and sweep. They swept the Detroit Tigers in 2012, and then now it brings us back to 2014, where the Giants, it was one of their World Series where, you look back at 10, they went 5 games. You can go to 2012, and it was a sweep. This was the only World Series that went the distance, and you had that sense of maybe the Giants won't be able to pull it off. And then you had the historic moments. And that's also something for the 2014 team. I feel that resonates a little bit differently with Giants fans is that the dramatics of what happened in that Fall Classic, but also to get there. I understand all of the elimination games in 2012, and that was a hell of a ride, and it was different. But, just to have the clincher, the NLCS, with Travis Ishikawa hitting that walk-off home run. It was the first time that the Giants clinched anything of their World Series runs, the first time that it was clinched, first time that anything had happened in San Francisco next to the Matt Cain perfect game. That was the first time that anything of significance really happened in San Francisco with the fan base there, and everyone just lost their collective minds. So it's just those moments that kind of come back to Giants fans, and you remember that. So that's why, for me, 2014 is almost rivaling 2010 in the significance of watching the World Series and just how different, how exciting it really was to kind of just relive that with the Giants going back to Kauffman Stadium. I know they've been there previously, but it's always nice just to see the orange and black invade that blue stadium of Kauffman, and you just always remember back where Madison Bumgarner comes out of the bullpen, and you could just go back and look. I was watching some of the highlights this morning, just reliving it, and when Madison Bumgarner comes out of the bullpen, if you go back and look at all the fans that are sitting behind the bullpen, you could just tell the look of defeat on their face when Madison Bumgarner is coming out of the bullpen. So we'll talk to Hunter Pence here coming up shortly, just what he felt in that 2014 World Series. But yeah, man, I mean, the drama for 2014, it all came down to the wire, right? I mean, the last player of that 2014 World Series that is still remaining is Salvador Perez, right? He was the final out in 2014, and he's still currently playing baseball and potentially a Hall of Famer moving forward. But he still remains. He's still on this team, so that's kind of cool to see Salvador Perez still playing baseball right now. 10 years ago, man. It's a long time, and it's kind of shocking when you kind of remember how long ago that was, and you kind of see where the state of the Giants organization is currently, where they're still trying to find their next nucleus, their next core of guys moving into the future. But maybe you have that with Elliot Ramos. Maybe you have that with a couple of these younger guys that you're going to see down the stretch of the season. So 808 KNBR is the number, as 415-808-5627. What was your favorite World Series? As we're looking to this game today, I know that the Giants will be playing a game later, and we'll talk about that after we speak with Hunter. But what was your favorite World Series? Because for me, it was 2014. It was one of those standouts. I know 2010, it does hold a special part in your heart as a Giants fan, but 14 was just, it had that drama going down to the final out, and Alex Gordon hitting that ball to left center field, and Gregor Blanco just playing the ball bad. And then you have Juan Perez in left field, who's in there for defense, and he kicks the ball around on the warning track. And you just have Alex Gordon just running around the bases. He gets to third base, ball gets to Brandon Crawford. And there was a moment of hesitation where you were like, "Oh crap, they're about to tie this game up." It's incredible stuff. But then the ultimate decision to hold them up. Crawford had the ball. It would have taken a perfect throw, I think, watching Alex Gordon rounding third and being held up at the last second. But it would have taken a perfect throw. And you had your big bopper coming up, Salvador Perez, and you heard it there coming in here to the Giants warm-up show. You heard it there with Madison Bumgarner inducing that pop-up to foul side of third base. Pablo Sandoval runs over, catches it, falls to his back, and then the celebration starts. So if anyone has thoughts on that World Series, go ahead and give us a call at 415-808-5627. We will continue to talk about that as this show goes on. But later today, the Giants will be taking on the Kansas City Royals. 2:10 is first pitch. You have Landon Roop on the mound for the San Francisco Giants against Brady Singer. This will be the third start for Landon Roop, and he has looked pretty damn good in the month of September, where he's only thrown 14 innings, 10 of them as a starter, but 14 innings where he came in for that 4-inning relief, 14 innings, and has a 1.20 ERA for the month of September. You like to see the development and growth of these young guys, especially Landon Roop, because I was really high on him at spring training. So we'll have to see what his role is for this Giants team moving forward. So we will talk about that a little bit later, talk about this game, talk about the young guys. But coming up next, we have two-time World Series champion Hunter Pence joining the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Welcome back to our KNBR Giants warm-up on the Sports Leader.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader. I'm your host, Walter Calceta, and my next guest, I remember being at the Giants game on his arrival to AT&T Park way back when, walking down that third base line to the dugout. Fan base was hyped, and you can tell that this guy was going to be a forever Giant. Two-time World Series champion, current analyst for NBC Sports Bay Area. You'll hear him on the broadcast this weekend in Kansas City, the great Hunter Pence. What's up, Hunter?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate the excellent intro. What a pleasure.
Yeah, man, I practiced it a couple times, so yeah, it worked out perfectly.
It did. It was very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Hey, you still riding around on a scooter, Hunter?
Not as much.
Yeah.
You know, I mainly just kind of walking and Ubering around town if I have to get somewhere. But the scooter has died, unfortunately.
Oh, man. That pains me to hear. I ride a scooter every day to the KNBR studios every morning that I come in, and I think
nice,
that started
right?
with
It's
you,
fun.
Dude. It is incredible. Like, you take in the views. Like, it's kind of like therapeutic in a sense.
It really is.
It's really nice.
It really is. I'm glad you're enjoying that, and more people are doing it these days.
Yeah, for sure. You're definitely ahead of your time. Well, Hunter Pence is here. You are back in KC, man. Have you been back since the 2014 World Series?
Yeah, I think I have a time or two, but it always is a tremendous good feeling. I think I actually played here a couple times as well. So,
okay.
But yeah, every time in Kansas City, obviously it's impossible to forget the run we had here, and what a series in 2014, huh? 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was 10 years ago. It was an incredible run. I know you were part of 2 World Series championships, so we'll talk about that in just a second. But, what was, like, your favorite memory of KC? Obviously, going down Game 7, down to the wire, Mad Bum comes out of the bullpen. Like, just what was that feeling like, you being on that team? Just what was the sense of the entire atmosphere in Kansas City?
I mean, it was just such a crazy series in general. It was like 2 teams that were very similar, playing very free, and when obviously we got to Game 7, there was a lot of stuff before that was pretty wild. But I mean, I remember in Game 6 we were getting blown out by 10 runs, and we were yelling "Don't change your body language, we don't care." And they told us no team had won on the road since the 70s, and we were trying to reframe it. We were not trying to. We were well, then that means the road teams do. We're not going to let that seep into our minds. So it was kind of that whole really, really hyper-focused and locked in, and Bum, did what Bum did, which was crazy. But, you're a little bit nervous because he had just pitched. You're what are we going to get? And all in all, everyone was just dialed in to at Game 7 to working on the goal. I think I'll never forget how free we were in general because, we were just we're going to send it with everything we have. That group was really tight-knit. I remember Casilla just running out the stretch because you're hyper-focused on Game 7. The day takes forever for the game to get there. And, I just remember Casilla walking out and just being woo, just kind of he's riding the wave, having a at the playground or something. And it just really was fun to see him having that joy. And it's these are 2 championship teams this year, and one great team is going to have to go home, but come and see us. And fortunately, Bum was able to do what he did. We scratched a couple of runs off, and what a series that was.
Yeah, man, that's one thing about those World Series teams, and obviously getting to that mountaintop. But you get to see all the players, their personalities, right? I felt like that team was very personable, and you kind of led the charge on that, just bringing all of that energy. It was contagious, right? So it all started from back in 2012. So I just got to ask you, I'm sure you've had this question multiple times over the years. Which one was your favorite? Because both of those postseasons kind of had a mind of its own or its own feeling. So which one would you gravitate towards the most as being your favorite? I know it's probably hard to pick, but which one would you go with?
Yeah, you really can't pick a favorite. And I'm sure you as a fan, enjoyed them all each for their own sake, and we're different journeys and memories, and and I'm sure fans can feel the same with each one of those runs, and they all were special in a certain way. And they were totally different, right? And a lot of similar players, but still different journeys, different cities, different like tasks. The first one in 2012 was just, we kept being on our back foot every time, and that pitching staff was just really remarkable. Kane won all those, basically elimination games to clinch. I think he broke some crazy record that year. He was the big hero, and then Pablo with the 3 home runs against the Tigers, who we had no business beating with. I mean, just look at that rotation with Verlander, Scherzer, and Anibal Sanchez was in his prime. Pfister, one of the nastiest. What those guys were able to accomplish after that. But we were just locked in. It was our time, and it's like kind of like your kids or your dog. I don't have kids, but like multiple dogs, they have different personalities, and you enjoy them their own way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've heard the comparison multiple times. Like, oh yeah, you can't pick your favorite kid, but the parents they have their favorites. They have their favorite closet.
Is that
favorites.
right? I guess favorites. I don't know. I don't have. Yeah. They both. Well, I will say this: like, I don't have a favorite World Series championship. They both mean the world to me, and they were really awesome. And just like I got to live 2 once-in-a-lifetime experiences, so it was crazy.
Yeah, man, it was incredible. Going back to 2012, I mean, that one was just it was crazy in the fact that all those elimination games, like it was just an adrenaline rush to where you kind of when the Giants got into that situation, you kind of felt like they were going to come out of it. I know, you guys probably felt like that in the clubhouse as well. But great runs, and for sure, it's difficult to pick a favorite. Now, let's kind of pivot to the now. Let's look to the Giants of the current, and they are now mathematically eliminated from the playoff picture. And as a former player, you weren't always playing in World Series, right? It wasn't every year. How did you approach as a player the final stretch of the season when you know that you get to game 162, that's it?
Well, I mean, if you expect and have a vision and a dream to win World Series, and that's your goal, then you understand that, like, you play the game not only for that, you play the game because you love it. And like, you play the game, if you need something, like a reason beyond just loving the game and pure, like, enjoying competing and giving your best, then I feel like you're already on the back foot. So, like, the fact that you are going to a major league game is a dream come true. And, like, that opportunity to explore, to expand, to get better, to gain that experience, to get closer with your teammates, to also like break the dreams. Like the Kansas City Royals are trying to make the playoffs right here. You have an opportunity with nothing to lose to be a spoiler, and you have so many opportunities to just gain experience and to, the numbers on the back of your card matter as well. So there's infinite reasons that these games still matter. And for me, I always like took pride in the work that you do when no one's looking, and also like just winning each game and being the best player I can and the growth. So I love just going out and competing. I didn't care if there was no fans, infinite fans. I was in wherever I was. That was kind of my message. And a big message, in 2014 was like, it doesn't matter where we are, who we are, what anyone says. Like between the lines, nobody goes harder than us, and because we love it, and that was kind of my MO.
Yeah, that's a good way to approach it, and yeah, man. When you look to the players now, right? Who are you looking forward to down the stretch to kind of seize their opportunity? Because now it's turned into this is an opportunity to kind of see what you can do, especially with the Giants, with all the young players that they have. So who are you looking forward to the most down the stretch here?
Yeah, and I guess that was as a player's mindset, which I am no longer. And so as a fan's mindset and a broadcaster's mindset, and looking through the scope of the Giants and the future, there is a lot of exciting things for this last stretch of games. I mean, Hayden Birdsong, I think, some of these young pitchers, Landon Roop, we're going to see Mason Black tonight. These guys are going to be potential, really pivotal role players moving forward in the organization. Hayden Birdsong is extraordinary electric. Like the ceiling for him is so high. So I'm enjoying every one of his outings. I think, We need to see what can Grant McCray do. Just the word around, watching him, he's extremely explosive. He's crazy fast. The defense is electric. They say he's an absolute beast in the weight room, pound for pound, probably the strongest guy. Not the strongest overall, but pound for pound, just an absolute freak. So getting him at bats, letting him make adjustments, more from Elliot Ramos. Let's see him finish strong. His approach has been just absolutely phenomenal this season. Tyler Fitzgerald, he's working on the slider. They're just spinning him to death. How's he going to make that adjustment? And these games, I think it's really good that we're playing teams that are in playoff pictures, that are really, like, these games matter to the opposing team. So there's a lot of value in, like, really evaluating this young talent and letting them develop in games that matter, even though, for us, we're out of it, but it matters. Like, this team is going to be fighting for their life, Kansas City, tonight. And so I think there's just so much excitement to watch these guys develop, and they're going to be the cornerstone of the playoff picture Giants and the World Series contenders that we're building. And I think those guys in particular have a really big, microscope on them.
We're talking with Hunter Pence here. The last couple of minutes here with Hunter Pence, and you mentioned a couple of guys there that I think fans can get excited about, right? Obviously, we've seen the emergence of Elliot Ramos coming in May 8th and makes it to the All-Star game. Just incredible stuff, just from what he has done and what he projects to be for this Giants team in the future in the outfield. But you also mentioned Grant McCray, right? And I think that a big point of emphasis for this team going into next year is improving on the defense, right? The Giants teams of the future or of the past, they've won with pitching and defense. And Grant McCray, I mean, man, I don't know if anyone can cover as much ground as he does. And you have that pairing of Jung-Hoo Lee and Grant McCray. Like, would he be a good fit in right field in your estimation, being that you played right field and the difficulties of playing it at Oracle Park?
Yeah, I definitely think he can get that done. And I mean, look, Yastrzemski is just as fundamentally sound and extraordinarily and a centerpiece. So we'll see what happens with him. And he's finishing the season off hot. But McCray and Jung-Hoo Lee, definitely those are two like plus center fielders. And the thing is McCray's at bats, he's got to get a little more contact. The power is there. The lethality when he's on the bases is there. And with the game today, if he can get on base more because of the base stealing threat and how they've adjusted where it's more of a base stealer's game, the small things are going to matter. The pitching and defense is going to matter. So I definitely think getting McCray as many at-bats as we can in this stretch, getting to really look at him at this level in these games. Tyler Fitzgerald's pretty much established himself like this guy can do it. And he is in a little bit of an adjustment period, and I think he's going to get there. But McCray is one that's like, this could be a really big addition, and so these at-bats are really, really important for him.
Yeah, and the athleticism that he has, it just checks all the boxes, right, for what the Giants need in what they need moving forward, and just seeing his base stealing abilities that he's had in the minor leagues. I mean, that guy was just running crazy. So we'd love to see what he can do moving forward. But one last thing, Hunter, before you go, we did talk a little bit about Elliot Ramos and just his emergence as being kind of the future of this Giants team in the outfield. And he finally, the first guy, it took 25 seasons for it to happen, but the first guy to hit a home run right-handed hitter into McCovey Cove. Was that ever something that you tried to do? And just speak to the difficulty of that so that everyone understands how difficult that was, what Elliot Ramos did this past week.
I mean, what is it, 860,000 right-handed at-bats or something like that?
Yeah.
Maybe it was 86,000. It was one of those two. It was like an absurd number of at-bats for right-handed hitters, and he is the first to do that. That just tells you A, have to be an absolute beast, you B, have to hit it right, and C, you probably need the elements to be in your favor, because you're going to need the wind and not be knocking it down to make that happen. So all of that had to align. And look, the synchronicity of it on Roberto Clemente Day, Elliot Ramos being born in Puerto Rico, Orlando Cepeda passed away. Like, I mean, come on. Tell me there's not that's like a Disneyland fairy tale story, and what a great moment that he created for us. That was spectacular. It's just one of those things that kind of these things happen to players that just have this. There's like this star potential and this like electricity, this electric vibe that only it's just like all of the heavens shine on you for that specific moment. And it's kind of you follow those little hints, and let's watch Ramos. He's just showed us that he's here to make some great memories and be a big part of this Giants history. And that was a big start already, like you talked about earlier, an all-star. So just a special moment. And it just reminds me when you're watching like a Biggio, and when he had his 3,000th hit, he got like 4 hits that game. And when his last game of the year of his career, he like hits a walk-off homer. It's just like some people just have this magical touch about them, and it looks like Ramos is one of those guys.
Yeah, man, it's incredible. The thing about baseball is that you go to the ballpark every day, you never know what you're going to see, and you could see something that you've never seen before, and that's what Heliot Ramos definitely did for everyone in attendance at Oracle Park. Hunter Pence, thank you so much for stopping by the show today, man. Really appreciate it, and talk to you soon.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor, and enjoy the series.
And that was the great Hunter Pence stopping by the Giants warm-up show. A lot to dissect there, and we will continue this conversation on the other side. But we do have roster moves. You may have heard it earlier with Talking Baseball with Marty Lurie, but Matt Chapman is back in the lineup hitting cleanup. He is back from his leave, and that means a roster move was pending, and it is Marco Luciano. He was sent back down to AAA, but Maria Guardado a couple of minutes, or actually like 30 minutes ago, put out that Bob Melvin spoke and said that Marco Luciano will be heading down to Arizona and getting some work in the outfield. We will discuss that on the other side. We have a Giants lineup ready for you, and we'll talk more about the man of the hour, Heliot Ramos, who we were talking at length with Hunter Pence. We'll talk about his game yesterday, almost hitting for the cycle, and his future for the Giants moving forward. But also Marco Luciano, again, if you haven't heard, he was sent down to AAA, but he is heading to Arizona to get some work in the outfield. We will discuss that on the other side as the Giants warm-up show continues on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Yeah, look, I mean, you know.
One pitch, Ramos swings and drives one out towards deep left center. Isbell on the run, reaching up off his glove, and the ball rolls to the bottom of the wall. Isbell will pick it up there, rounding second. Ramos on his way to third. The relay, not in time. Ramos in with a head-first dive and a leadoff triple.
We're getting you in the mood for a crazy crab sandwich, some garlic fries, a cha-cha bowl, and some orange and black baseball. KNBR's Giants warm-up keeps rolling on the sports leader.
All right, you heard it there. Elliot Ramos and Joe Rizzo on the call. We'll be speaking with Joe Rizzo in about 15 minutes or so. We will be heading to the booth at Kauffman Stadium. But Elliot Ramos hits for a triple yesterday. He was only a home run shy of the cycle. And he is our key player of the game, key player of the week, sponsored by Key Point Credit Union, Next Generation Banking. Elliot Ramos, I mean, you look at his performance yesterday, 3 for 4. He has been, it's kind of nice to see how these young guys are still approaching. We kind of talked about it with Hunter Pence there. If you missed any of that, go to KNBR.com and check out the podcast page, and it'll be up there. But Elliot Ramos almost hit for the cycle, and you know, just the way that he is still playing the game as if, the Giants are still in the race, that there's still something to play for. And really, there is something to play for. You are still showing that you are a big leaguer, right? I mean, you are out there and competing every single day. You love to see that from the young guys, especially with the Giants being eliminated earlier this week from playoff contention mathematically. But Elliot Ramos, he's been incredible, 8 for 25 over the last week. And we all remember that home run, little tease. Maybe that's our detailed measurement of the week tomorrow when we have to go and give you the best home run of the week. That home run in McCovey Cove, the first right-hander to do so. This guy has just had an incredible week to date, 8 for 25. With that one home run, but a 320 batting average and 970 OPS. That only the one home run, but that one home run was impressive, being the first right-hander to reach the Cove in the 25 seasons that we have been playing at third and King. So Elliot Ramos, one of those guys, he is batting second today. We'll get you that lineup here shortly, and we will talk about the roster move because Matt Chapman is back in the lineup batting cleanup, and Marco Luciano has been sent down to AAA. But Maria Guardado reporting a little bit about 50 minutes ago, right when we started the Giants warm-up, that Bob Melvin said that Marco Luciano will be heading to Arizona and getting some work in the outfield. So we will be talking about that as well. But Elliot Ramos, one of those guys that is he's really impressive. I mean, this has been a coming out season for the young outfielder, right? And when you start looking to this season wrapping up and you start kind of going back to what the takeaways are from the 2024 season, Elliot Ramos emerging into someone that the Giants can depend on is a huge development, because I think that when the Giants were coming into this season, Elliot Ramos wasn't doing fantastic through the long period of time in Sacramento. He wasn't putting up the numbers, right? He did finish out strong the year prior in 2023, but it just wasn't there, right? So then there was a lot of question whether or not he was going to be the star potential player that they envisioned when Elliot Ramos was brought in to this Giants organization. So yesterday, almost hit for the cycle. This guy is starting to rack up accolades, almost hit for the cycle. And this is what he had to say post game after only being a home run shy of hitting for his first cycle. This is what he had to say post game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had it in my head, and I was thinking, okay, let's get a good pitch to hit, let's get a good at bat, and honestly, I just wanted to get a good pitch to hit, not trying to do too much. I feel like the past 3 weeks or months, I've been hitting the ball hard, but there was something that wasn't clicking yet. So I mean, I was working in the cage with JV, Pat, and I mean, it just clicked yesterday. I felt that in my move and the 2 walks that I had, so I was like, I'm ready for the next day. I just want to take a good at bat.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to see again that these young guys are still out there grinding, and in particular, the pitching is still out there being showcased. We have Landon Roop on the mound later today, but just to see Elliot Ramos just continue to put out good at bat after good at bat, especially at this point in the season where right now the Giants are playing spoiler, right? And we kind of talked about it a little bit with Hunter that. Right now, as a young player finishing out this season, what is your approach? How should the Giants players approach this final stretch of the games? And you look at who they're playing. They played against the Baltimore Orioles. They're currently playing against the Kansas City Royals. And these are teams that are still vying for playoff positions, right? I mean, the Orioles, they will hold on to that first wild card spot. I believe they're 5 games up. We'll give you a standings update here in a few minutes, but I believe they're 5 games up on the first wild card spot ahead of the Royals. The Royals are right there, but it's a close race, right? When you look to the American League wild card race. So the Giants can play spoiler, and they can mess up things for the next series with the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? So these are big games for the teams that the Giants are playing, and they're equally as important for the Giants players on this roster because they are getting the best from the teams that they are playing down this final stretch. And you get to see what these guys are really made of. So it's really intriguing to see how these young guys finish out the year for sure, as you know that your last game is game 162. Let's give you the Giants lineup really quick before we switch gears into Marco Luciano talk. If anyone has any thoughts on Marco Luciano and the management of Marco Luciano from the Giants front office, go ahead and give me a call, 415-808-5627. That is 415-808-KNBR. If you have any thoughts on Marco Luciano, if you've missed it earlier, Matt Chapman is back. He's batting fourth, batting cleanup at third base. Marco Luciano was sent down to AAA Sacramento, but he will be heading to Arizona to be working on stuff in the outfield. So that is developing this morning. The lineup today, Mike Yastrzemski is batting leadoff. He is in right field. You have Elliot Ramos, who we have been spending a lot of this morning talking about, because I think the future is bright for Elliot Ramos. He's batting second in left field. Batting third is Lamont Wade Jr. at first base. He is the only Giant in the lineup currently that has a home run against Brady Singer. We'll talk about that as Diamond Notes continues into the postgame. Matt Chapman is back in the lineup from his leave. He is batting cleanup at third base. Michael Conforto is batting fifth in the DH spot. Tyler Fitzgerald is batting sixth at shortstop. Grant McCray is batting seventh in center field. Donovan Walton at second base batting eighth, and Kurt Casale is behind the dish batting ninth. So Mike Yastrzemski, Elliot Ramos, Lamont Wade Jr., Matt Chapman, Michael Conforto, Tyler Fitzgerald, Grant McCray, Donovan Walton, and Kurt Casale. On the mound for the San Francisco Giants is Landon Roop, who is going out there for the third time this season, for a third start of the season, rather. His last two have been pretty impressive, but the month of September has been kind to Landon Roop. 14 innings pitched, and he has only allowed 2 earned runs in those 14 innings, and they're good teams. It's against the Diamondbacks, the Orioles, or I'm sorry, not the Orioles. It was the Diamondbacks, the Brewers, and the Padres. So all playoff teams. Really impressive stuff from the young right-hander. So 808 KNBR is the number. Marco Luciano. We will be wrapping up here shortly. So if you do have thoughts on Marco Luciano being sent down, he will be heading to Arizona to be working on stuff in the outfield. What does that mean for this young player for the Giants? Because he is someone that everyone has been looking forward to seeing. And with a final week left in this season, you would like to see him get major league at bats. So I understand that they want to try him out in the outfield, but and a lot of people think that his bat does play at the major league level. I am one of them. So maybe you just want to get a kickstart on the offseason, that you want to see him play in other positions. But is that kind of a foreshadowing of things to come? Is Marco Luciano going to be a part of this team moving forward? Is he going to be one of these core pieces that the Giants are still trying to figure out? You have Elliot Ramos, you have Patrick Bailey, you might have Tyler Fitzgerald, you have Matt Chapman, right? And coming back from injury, you do have Jung-Hoo Lee, who will be in center field next year for 2025. But Marco Luciano was a part of that equation. He was part of that. So it's going to be really interesting if they're trying him out in the outfield. Is that for the Giants? Because then you start looking at the outfield positions and where everyone is. Where does he slot in? Is he going to go into left field? You move Elliot Ramos over to right. It's just you start looking at the pieces of the puzzle, and maybe there's just one more piece more than the Giants had anticipated. Maybe it's a move to showcase him in the outfield, and you go ahead and look at where Marco Luciano could potentially be a part of a trade to maybe get a veteran bat in there at some point. So we'll have to monitor that for sure as the offseason continues. A quick standings update before we get out of here. Standings update sponsored by Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. We talked about the AL wild card. The Giants can play spoiler. The Royals are in that number 2 spot, and the Giants try to knock them out of playoff contention. So we will continue to talk Giants baseball as the pregame show is underway. You're listening to KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.